I'll always stand for women. I always have. Whether in uniform or out of uniform, I always stand for those women that serve. I want to tell a story real quick, give some context as to why I stand for women. I did a couple of video posts, and women were overwhelmingly thanking me for doing that, especially those in uniform who can't speak out or feel like they can't speak out. I will always have your back. But I got to tell a story about why I stand for women. And I don't mean for this story to trigger any of you women out there who have been through anything, but I think it's time for us men to start telling these stories, because if we don't tell the stories, then it seems like these things are not happening to the women. And I want to tell my story. So I worked in a maintenance unit in Hill Air Force Base, Utah. It was the Air Force. I was in the E6. One day we got a call that they were going to send an E7 over to our unit. Our job was to maintain the equipment that supported the fighter jets, the F-16s we had at the time, and some of the other aircraft. So out the blue, they said they would send this E7 over to us, which is odd because if anybody's been in the military, no, you don't just move people with that kind of rank just around just arbitrarily. There's a reason why the guy was moved over to us. So we got with the shop chief and asked, "Hey, why is he coming over here? Where are you going to put him? What's the deal?" Shop chief was kind of tight-lipped. It's like he knew, but he didn't know. He was just giving orders by command that that guy was going to be moved over to our section. At the time, I was an E6, had a line number for E7, which meant I was an E7, but I just hadn't put it on yet. He was an E7 already. So when he came over to the unit, they had to give him a position um, that fit the rank. So they put him over at one of the maintenance units. By that time, I had been a part of two of the maintenance units, and they had moved me to the command section because of some of the things I did with data analysis and those sorts of things. So here's where it gets tricky. There was a young lady that I worked with. She had worked with me in some of the other maintenance sections. Uh, she was an E4 at the time. I was an E6, and we called her Red, and she was okay with being called Red. Everybody had like little nicknames in maintenance. She was Red, and I remember one day she came by the command section to talk to me. She said, "Son, Brown, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, just let me know when." You know what I'm saying? This went on for like 3 days, and for some reason she just had this fear of coming talking to me. So I finally made the decision to find a window of opportunity to give her to say, "Hey, just come and talk to me at this time," because I know no one would see her. I wanted to make sure she was protected. You know what I'm saying? Um, so she did come and talk to me. Finally, come and talk to me. Now, keep in mind that E7 also was in the same building. We had one of the maintenance sections in that same building, so he was assigned to the maintenance sections in that building. So she only had to walk a couple of feet to talk to me, but she just had to make sure that no one saw her. She came and talked to me. She sat down, and she looked very, very nervous talking to me, like extremely nervous. But I'm the type of leader I always gave the young folks, always make sure they were comfortable enough to come and talk to me about anything, about whether they got into some trouble or whether they had trouble, because even if they got into some trouble, I always tell them, you better come and tell me what happened, because the first thing we're going to do is try to get you out of that trouble, and then we'll talk about the ramification and the discipline later. I just try to be the type of person I wanted to make sure open communication was always there between me and the folks that I had to lead. So she sat down and she began to tell me this. She said, "I don't know why, but that master sergeant," and she was put under that master sergeant's supervision. She said, "Son Brown, this guy, I don't know what it is. He just seems to have it out for us women." There was only 3 women in that section, about 20 people. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, he just yells at us for no reason out there in front of everybody, and he says this crazy stuff." I said, "What do you mean says crazy stuff? What did he say?" She said, "Sometime when he gathers us all up together in formation, he'll say things like, 'If you don't stand up to piss, you better not come and talk to me.'" When she said that, my mouth dropped. I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "If you don't have to stand up to pee, you better not come to his office, knock on the door, talk to him at all." I said, "What?" I said, "Please continue." She said it got further. She said it got to where he would yell at them on the floor, but then he would be very particular about how he did it. He wanted to make sure that no one really saw when he was very aggressive with them. But this is where it got bad. This is where it got bad when she told me this. She said if it got to the point on the floor where there was too many people around to yell at them, he would call them to his office for no reason. He would just pick a lady and call them to the office. This is where it gets disgusting. This is why I fight for women. He would call them to the office, close the door. He would turn the lights off. He would have them in the dark. He would get in their face, and he was a big kind of buff dude. Get in their face and start yelling obscenities to them. Start trying to scare the hell out of them. Just a big bad monster. Just trying to break them. When she told me that, I froze. My blood boiled. I almost got out of character with her because I'm gonna tell you right now, he was only a few feet away from me. But you know, cooler heads had to prevail, and I told her, I said, just hold on. I went and found the chief. I said, Chief, I need you to hang back at least an hour or so. Just everybody clear out of here. I told that young lady to come back in 30 minutes. I said, leave the building and come back once everybody's gone. She came back, me, her, and the chief closed the door. I said, now tell the chief what you just told me. When he told that chief what he told her, that chief damn near started crying. He just couldn't believe it. And I think he was a Vietnam vet too. He's a Vietnam vet, one of the very few Vietnam vets that was still active duty. Older guy, and you could tell the tears were not. His emotion was not just about what happened to her. It was about the things that he didn't know that happened to her, the things that he didn't know that this guy was doing to ladies. He didn't just do it to her; he was doing it to all the ladies. And remember, y'all, I told y'all they sent this guy over to us, and something weird, something was off. Even the chief was like, "Why is this guy coming over here?" Well, shame on those folks that sent that guy over to our unit because they knew this guy was a piece of shit. They knew that. Shame on the men that were complicit in this. There had to be men that know about this. This guy rose to the rank of E7 Master Sergeant. And I think he ended up retiring honorably. He ended up getting slammed because I turned his ass in. You know, there came a point where I had to choose between being in the boys' club or standing for what's right. I stood for what's right. And he gave me all the craziest looks in the world. But it got deeper because they used to wonder why this guy walked around with his uniform top on all the time. He would never take his top off. And in the maintenance complex, anybody worked in the Air Force maintenance complex, it's okay for even senior leaders to take the top off, you know, go and hang with the young troops, see what they're doing on the floor, whatever. He never would take his top off. Here's why. When he did take it off, he took it off for PT or something like that. This guy had the most racist tattoos on his arm. He had one big ass tattoo that said, the only thing that women can do for me is blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to repeat what was on his arm, but you can fill in the blanks. So I'm upset about what happened to her. I'm upset about the women, the unknown women out there he affected. I'm upset because there are men that allowed this guy to go through the ranks like that. And I'm upset because women still continue today to deal with bullshit like that. So any men get on here and want to talk crazy about me for saluting our women in uniform because of my truth, I've worked with them. I know what they can do. I know what they're capable of. And right now, a lot of women are feeling uncomfortable right now. So if you want to come at me, don't come at me. Look at the comments in the post. Read the comments. They're speaking. Some are even saying they're in uniform and they wish they could speak out. So they're thanking me for doing something they feel like they can't do. Shame on us for making them feel that way. Some women have even sent messages to me asking me, Sergeant Brown, do you think I was thinking about going into the military, but I'm afraid because everything's going on. Do you think I should still go? And I tell them, yes, you go. You go to the military. You salute that flag. You wore that uniform properly. And you serve this country honorably. Don't let those men push you out. Don't let those men get in the way of you wanting to serve. You go and you serve. But I gave them tips on how to protect themselves. So with that, I'm going to let y'all go. I thought I'd give y'all this story because I think I needed to give some context into why I do what I do, why I've always done what I've done, and why I ask other men out there to do the same, in uniform particularly, or outside of uniform. Always stand for our women. Always. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.